Hello, my friends. Welcome back to another episode of the Scotty Taylor Jr. Success Money Mindset Podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, then you'll notice that I'm wearing a sweatshirt, which is not very common in my podcast episodes, but I lit a beautiful, super vibey scented candle. It's vanilla and tobacco. We're feeling the fall vibes right now. I have my almond milk latte that I made for myself. We're just feeling all sorts of coziness. So the sweatshirt is a representation of just how comfortable I am in this season in life. And if you're listening to this, then hello from the stereo system in which my voice is coming through. And I'm really excited for this episode. And this episode is going to be part of a series of episodes that are all going to be around belief shifting. And I felt really compelled to really kind of dig into this topic because while I teach a lot of strategies and a lot of tactics, I think we can all agree that mindset is the foundation for success. And so you can be the most strategic thinker in the world, but if you don't have the right unconscious beliefs, if you're out of alignment or in misalignment with your unconscious or subconscious belief systems or patterns, there are things that will prevent your success. And when I talk to advisors that I work with, there are so many incredible advisors out there that have patterns of behavior that are unconsciously driven that hold them back from next levels of success. And we work through these together and we process these together. And so I thought this would be really relevant to bring into the podcast because I just love it. I think it's so valuable. And one of the things that makes me so joyful is when I'm talking with somebody and I help them see something differently. I help them shift their perspective. I help them disrupt a belief that was previously kind of lodged, held in their brain. And that transformation to me is just worth, its weight in gold. It's so beautiful for me. It's so exciting for me to see. And I see the results from the people that I work with and how much happier and healthier and successful and financially abundant they are. So without further ado, let's get into the episode and episodes, and we're just going to go right into it. So let's do it. So as I mentioned, this episode is going to be part of a series of belief shifting, belief disrupting episodes. I don't know how many I'm going to record at this moment, but the one for today's episode is we're going to dig into the belief system that I can't seem to get ahead financially. And this was sparked by a conversation I was having with one of my students inside of my Financial Advisor Academy. And I've seen this belief many times coming up. And so when I say the words, I can't seem to get ahead financially, what I want you to think of, the belief that this stems from is this idea that you might feel like you just can't get ahead, like you're just treading water. You're constantly feeling like you're just maybe in a little bit over your head. You're like, I feel like I'm almost drowning. Like I can breathe air. I picture this, like you're in a lake and your feet just quite can't touch the ground. And so you're like treading water and you're like, whoa, this feels really stressful to be here. And I just feel like I can't get ahead financially. This might manifest in ways where, for example, you find yourself constantly getting into debt. So maybe you have months where, things go well and you're making more money, but then inevitably at some point in time, you find yourself back in debt again and again and again, or you have this pattern of getting into debt. Another example would be, you have a couple good months or a couple good weeks or one really good paycheck, and then you find yourself overspending or spending more than you would normally and either wiping out your savings or potentially going into debt. Another manifestation in the real world of this is you just don't find yourself saving money regularly. You don't find yourself putting money aside. You don't find yourself building up your savings accounts or your investment accounts. And those are just examples, right? And so the I can't get ahead financially is like the culmination of all of those different things or whatever it could be for you. So if you are in the position where you're like, okay, I look at the past year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, could be 50 years, and you're like, I'm just not seeming to get ahead. I'm not saving money, building my net worth. I don't feel like I'm kind of like moving the needle forward financially. I want to understand why that is. Then this is going to be the episode for you. So the thing that I want to start this episode with is, first and foremost, an acknowledgement that if this is a pattern that you have experienced in your life, it is not your fault. And I want to throw that out there first and foremost, because we are not shaming anybody. We are not judging anybody, and we are not going to blame anybody for the situations that they are in. Because the truth is that the situations that we're in most of the time are driven by unconscious patterns, or patterns that we picked up from at one time in our lives. And so unconscious mind is running the majority of our life. So the majority of the things that happen in our world are driven by unconscious mind. And by its nature, unconscious mind is not conscious. So it's not like it's a thought process where you're going to think to yourself, ooh, I have more money in my bank, I'm going to go out and spend more so that I get into debt. And so it's very easy for our conscious mind to be like, well, just don't do that. But that's just not how things work. Otherwise, you wouldn't be in the situation to begin with if you could consciously think your way out of it. It's like, duh, because you understand it consciously, logically, but it seems to keep happening. You're like, wait a minute, where's the discrepancy? Where's like what's going to give here, right? And so now that we know that this is non-judgmental, there is no shaming, there is nothing that you've done wrong. Now what we want to think about is this a pattern that is causing stress or frustration for you in your life? And this goes for any situation that may be causing stress or frustration in your life. And you can substitute stress, frustration with any negative emotion: anger, overwhelm, resentment, any pattern. Is there a pattern in your life that when you observe it, it creates stress for you over and over and over again? And so if that's the case, then my belief is that we get to shift that. So we get to shift that belief away from that pattern. We get to shift that pattern and live a new reality, a reality that feels better. Sound good? So the foundation of this is patterns exist because unconscious mind picks them up. Patterns that don't serve us can be shifted. That's the foundation for this episode, and that's the foundation for coming in this. So if you're thinking to yourself, man, I've been in the same kind of rut for the past 20 years, how the heck am I going to get out of it? We're going to get out of it together. And I'm going to share with you how to actually shift the belief systems. But one of the most foundational things that you may not even realize I've been doing is I'm bringing awareness to the fact that this can be changed. And not only that, but it can be changed easily and effortlessly just by shifting your perspective and shifting your belief system. So the first thing that we're doing here is we're coming to the agreement and understanding that this is a belief system and can be changed. So if you don't agree with me there, then the rest of this episode is going to be very difficult for you. But if you do agree with me, or if you are open to agreeing with me, I'm going to encourage you to suspend whatever disbelief or resistance you might have for the moment and just ask yourself the question, what if Scotty could be right? What if this could be something that would be beneficial for me? And let me retract that statement. It's not about me being right. It's about me adding value to the conversation, or me sharing ideas that will be of value to you. So it's not about being right or wrong. So I take back that statement, because I don't need to be right. I have no desire to be right. I only have a desire to be of help and to serve you and help you to see things differently that are going to create more joy for you in your life, which can manifest through less stress, less anxiety, things like that. So getting back to the belief system around, I can't seem to get ahead in my financial life. So one of my students, somebody that I work with, and this is something that's actually happened with me, with myself as well, so I'll share my story as well, is he's sharing with me that, when it comes to his finances, there is this pattern where he'll make money, but then he'll end up like spending more than he makes, and he'll get into debt little by little. And then all of a sudden he'll have to take out a loan, a personal loan, to pay off his credit cards or to pay off whatever debts that he may have accumulated, tax liability, to take out loan. He had to take out the loan to pay off these debts. And that's a pattern that's been happening for the last X number of years. And he's sharing this with me and he's like, I'm tired. I'm sick and tired of this pattern because I want to be in a position where there's lots of money in the bank and lots of investments, and I have more money coming in on a monthly basis than that's going out on a monthly basis. And so when we started digging into this, because he started asking me, like, how can I start to shift away from this? Like, he's in the place already where he understands that this is a pattern, and he also understands that he doesn't like this pattern anymore. So he consciously is like, I don't want this pattern to be my reality anymore. I'm tired of this being my reality. I am ready to make a change. And so the question that I asked him was, and this is my encouragement for you, visualize the end result. So I want you to visualize the end result that would be quote unquote ideal in this scenario. So for example, this could look like him having enough money in the bank, lots of investments, and no debt. So visualize that reality. And the next part of this is, as you visualize this reality, I want you to start to think about what, or not think, I want you to observe what thoughts and or feelings are being invoked by this visualization. So if you're like currently driving or going for a run, then maybe don't do this exercise right now, but I want you to play along with this and think about, if you're somebody who feels like I'm not getting ahead, or I'm not getting ahead as quickly as I would like, I want you to visualize the end result that you're looking for. The money in the bank, the investments, the cash coming in every single month. I want you to visualize that and share out loud with yourself or in your mind what thoughts and or feelings come up when you visualize that end outcome. And if you are feeling like the end result is, oh my God, that would be amazing, like I would love to have $1 million in the bank, I would love that, my encouragement is to dig a little bit deeper. Because if there is a pattern that's coming up, then unconscious mind does that because it believes that there is some type of benefit. And so the benefit to our conscious mind is going to be cockamamie, right? It doesn't sometimes make sense at all. But unconscious mind doesn't have to make sense. Unconscious mind doesn't operate in the realm of logic. It operates completely separate from that. And so if you think about having $1 million in the bank, and I'll share with you what my client is said, one of my students, what he was sharing with me. If you think about that and you just immediately go to, oh my God, Scotty, that would be amazing, then that's your opportunity to dig a little bit deeper, to just pause and really just put yourself in that situation of all the things being solved, everything that you're looking for, that end result is there, and then just feel what comes up. And so, for example, with my student, when he and I were chit-chatting, he shared with me that when all of that came, when he visualized all of that, what came through was this thought of, but how am I going to get all the clients to do that? And I was like, see, that is it. So that's what we need to now dig into. So the question, the thought process, to reiterate, I can't seem to get out ahead. What would getting out ahead look like? That means I have money in the bank, I have lots of cash flow coming in. And then the next thought is, where am I going to get all the clients to do that? And then it's interesting in that situation, first and foremost, because who said it had to come through clients, right? This is maybe improbable, but what if you have like a great uncle or a great aunt that's like somewhere in, I don't know, Britain, and they're in the UK, and they're like mega rich, and they're your third cousin twice removed or whatever, and they die and they leave you everything and you get $10 million from their estate. Like, it's improbable, but it is possible. And so what if the money came that way? So it's just, number one, interesting that the money has to come through clients. So that might tell you that there's some resistance there, or it might tell you where our mind is focused. So our mind is focused on this one narrow path. How am I going to get that many clients to do that? Okay, interesting. Number two, the thought process of how am I going to get that many clients to do that? For me, when I hear that, I'm thinking to myself in response to my my student is there some resistance to bringing on new clients and making new clients? Do we think that by bringing on more clients and having more clients and having lots of clients, that you're going to have maybe less freedom, less flexibility? You're not going to have as much autonomy. You're going to be stuck. You're going to feel like, holy shit, I'm so busy. I can't have time for my family or my friends, my partner, my significant other. Is there some belief system there that's rooted even deeper? And so, for example, something that might be playing out in this scenario is I can't seem to get ahead financially. When I visualize all the money coming in, I feel like, oh my God, where are these clients going to come from? I get very overwhelmed. And then when I think about the overwhelm and I dig a little bit deeper, it's because, wow, if I were making $30,000 a month, that means I have to bring on 10 clients a month. And when I think about bringing on 10 clients a month, I get very overwhelmed with, oh my God, that's so much back end work. That's so much paperwork. I probably have a lot of meetings. And now all of a sudden my freedom is being infringed upon. So I no longer have freedom. I no longer have autonomy. I don't have my own life. Oh my God, I'm stuck. And that's what unconscious mind does. And so now we can see that the feeling of loss of freedom is connected to this idea of having debt or not being able to get out ahead financially. So unconscious mind has crisscrossed these beliefs and created meaning. And the meaning is, if I get unstuck and I increase my financial ability, I am going to lose my freedom. That's the connection that unconscious mind has made. And if unconscious mind has made that connection, it is for sure not going to allow you to be successful because it's trying to protect you. And this is how our reptilian brain fucks us up without us even knowing it. Because the belief system there is, if I were to make a lot of money, I'm going to have no freedom. If freedom is a value to you, which it is for all of us humans, we all crave independence and freedom. Nobody wants to be chained up in a basement or in a fucking prison. So if you crave freedom, which we all do, then unconscious mind is going to say, I'm going to protect you. I'm not going to let you make more money. I'm not going to let this happen. So let's get back into debt. And so the real world manifestation of this is that debt is going to feel comfortable because it's a known reality that unconscious mind can say, okay, we know this, we're miserable, but frankly, I don't care. Unconscious mind, that is. Unconscious mind doesn't care if you're miserable. Unconscious mind is not created to make you happy. Unconscious mind is created to keep you safe and help you to procreate. So unfortunately, unconscious mind is not looking out for your mental well-being. It's just looking out for your physical well-being. So unconscious mind, when it kicks on that stress response over and over and over and over again, because, you see your boss sends you an email and you get that fight or flight response, that's evolutionarily, it's protecting you, but it's certainly not creating any well-being for you mentally, right? That was a side tangent. My point being here, and hopefully this has illuminated the belief system thread, where if I'm not able to get out ahead of myself financially, the question is, what is it underlying that's holding me back? And in this case, it comes back to this idea of, I will lose my freedom, I will lose my autonomy, I will lose everything that I hold dear to myself, which is my independence. That, my friends, is how we bust a belief. Because we then look at that belief system for what it is. Now that it's out in the light, I kind of think of it like shining a light on a shadow. It's really scary when it's dark, but you shine the light and it ends up being a mouse. It's not a monster. And you go look at it and say, oh, well, is that true? Is it ultimately true that if I gain more success and bring on more clients, that I won't have any freedom? Not ultimately true. You can hire people to support you. You can decide not to take on some clients. You can say no to some people. You can prospect up so that the people that you're working with have higher incomes and therefore you don't have to see as many of them. Like, there are ways, logically, we know, of not eliminating or sacrificing all of your freedom in order to achieve a next level of success. So we can look at that belief system for what it is. You can look at it, and I like to think of it kind of like I think of like Voldemort in Harry Potter when Voldemort kills himself and Harry with the Horcrux. I don't know if this is gonna make sense if you haven't seen Harry Potter, but most people have, I assume. In the last book, when Voldemort kills himself inside of Harry or whatever, and they're in that like big white space with Dumbledore, you look at that Voldemort and it's like that tiny little, like, it looks really sad and it's like it's dying, and it's kind of quite gross, but this is the metaphor that came through for me, so I'm sharing it. So you're getting my unfiltered brain processing metaphor. And it's like Voldemort is terrifying, but when you look at that version of him, it's not really that scary when the light is shined on him. He's actually quite afraid, and he's in pain at the end of the day. And so that's kind of the way I think about belief systems that are not serving us. Like, they're big and scary in our mind because we haven't shined the light on them. But once you shine the light on them, you're like, oh, it's kind of sad. It's kind of just, it's afraid, or it's nervous, or I just thought it was this big thing. And in reality, it's just this tiny little thing that I can shift away from by choosing a new belief. And so if you're in the position where you want to get out ahead, you want to have lots of money in your savings, lots of money in investments, you want to feel like you're not constantly getting into debt, or even like in some ways reinvesting in your business over and over and over again. I mean, I've been prone to do that as well. And I'm not saying this is right or wrong, but I have in the past, I've made lots and lots and lots of money, and then I just pour it right back into the business. Again, I'm 35 years old, so I think to myself, if I can put in $50,000, $100,000 a year back into my business, that's going to yield me a better return than putting it into the stock market. Of course, we can do both, and I do both, but the way I think about it sometimes is I reinvest back into my business and not so much into building my net worth. I do build my net worth, but I put more back into my business, just to clarify. And sometimes I think to myself, okay, well, am I doing this to avoid building my net worth, or is it truly an aligned decision? Side note again, but the point being that if I think about getting ahead and I think about saving, I think about investing, what resistant thoughts come up? And I want to trace that back, and I want to get to the root of it. I want to understand the foundation of it. I want to understand, like, what is that belief system? What is that pattern that I've picked up that I can then shine the light on and ask myself the question, the very, very complex question of, is this true? I was being facetious. It's not a very complex question. You just ask yourself the question logically, is this ultimately true? No? Okay, cool. Maybe I get to shift it then. I hope this episode was helpful for you. I hope this episode shifted some things loose in your brain. When belief systems can get unrooted, I like to think of it like something is stuck to the side of a can and you're shaking it, and then all of a sudden it broke loose, and you're like, ooh, that felt good. Like something shook loose there, something that was unexpected happened. And now that it shook loose, we can work on replacing it with a new belief system, which could be, when I get out ahead, I work less. When I make more money, I work less. I have more autonomy the more money I make. We can start to believe we can start to adopt those new belief systems. And if that's our belief system, so if I believe that the more money I make, the more freedom I have, then cool, boom, now my unconscious and my unconscious mind and conscious desires are aligned, and I can shoot forward at amazing speed because there's nothing that's holding me back from an unconscious mind perspective. I love you, my friends. I hope you have a wonderful day. If there are any belief systems that you'd like me to cover in this series, then shoot me a DM on Instagram at Scotty Taylor Jr. That's Scotty with an IE, or you can DM me at my financial advisor Instagram at the Financial Advisor Academy, just all spelled out. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I can't wait to share a couple more of these episodes with you, and I will see you next time. Take